Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skitty, and Mally for the Insight NBA show.
G'day everyone, Matty G here for the Insight NBA show, flying solo, battling the weather, and a whole bunch of other gear because, you know what? Injuries do happen and sickness. I was going to take the game off, but no, I'm here and we're going to go over all of the injuries for week 7 and how it's shaping up to impact your fantasy week. Have a little bit of look over week 6 and what's happened there because of those injuries, and also just see what we can make of the schedule for week 7. Now, week 7 is a bit of a wacky one. Let me preface this with saying this is across the main three. We've got Yahoo, we've got ESPN, and Fantrax. Shout out to CBS and Underdog and the rest, but we know these are the three major formats. Now, there is some shenanigans that happen across different formats, which weeks are in, which weeks are out. Fantrax is more closely aligned. ESPN and Fantrax this week are normal. However, Yahoo, because of the NBA Cup, has actually backed that in there. So it's a combined 2 weeks on Yahoo, unless your commissioner has unset that. But for the most part, this is a 2-week week 7 preview for Yahoo. So we're going to focus on the first part of week 7 for this one, because the big thing to say is this: it doesn't change your amount of ads. So if your commissioner set up your league and that your standard amount of ads is 4 or 5, you now have to be very judicious with when you use them. You don't want to blow your load in the first few games and thinking about it and then, oh yeah, I'm looking pretty. You suffer some injuries. You need to bench some guys because of that. Stop them in an IL, bring some guys in. But you can't, because you've used those IL or those IR spots up. You can't bring people into your team because you've used your maximum amount of waiver ads for the week. If it's 4 or 5, maybe you have unlimited and you're lucky. But if you don't, this is something you really want to pay attention to in your Yahoo settings for this week, being week 7, to make the most of it, which actually means the end of week 6 is important. And we're going to come to that in a second. But before we do, let's go over the injuries throughout the league, see how they implicate us from week 6 and what we can do with them moving into week 7. Yeah, let's start off at the ATL this week. And Bogdan Bogdanovic missed the game on Saturday because of his injury management, remembering the back-to-backs, and we'll touch on the Hawks with those later on in the show. He is probably being left out of most of them, and this is when DeAndre Hunter usually erupts. For Sunday, KP, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Al Horford. Now, they're all questionable for Sunday for their game against the Cavaliers. I really want to watch this Cavaliers game. I really want to see this game. I don't want to see it with KP. I want to see it with Darius Garland hitting some shots, not being like 100 from the field. This is circled on my calendar as one of the absolute much-watched games, and I hope it's not an absolute tear away from the Celtics and then a big makeup. I hope it's close from start to finish, and I want to see these teams healthy for it. In Brooklyn, Dorian Finney-Smith, he's been out for Sunday, but he's an interesting one to watch working on into week 7. In Charlotte, we know LaMelo Ball, he's got a calf strain. Now, that's going to keep him sidelined for a couple of weeks there. The big guy that we could have picked up was Trey Mann, but he's been out with a disc irritation. So he's out for a couple of weeks. So it's Micic here that obviously the other night against New York, it was a 1-point loss, 3 from 10. Now we look at the field goal percentage for Micic and be like, oh, Jesus, he hurts. But the rebounds are nice. We know he's there to be a playmaker and a facilitator in this team. That's what he does best. So we are looking to bring him in when we need to. So if you have LaMelo, this is the guy that you're going to pick up for the next couple of weeks, which really is a shame because it was all signals are pointing to it being Trey Mann season. Alas, it is not. And Miles Bridges, he's been silent on the side as well. His knee injury. Big news though, Mark Williams and Nick Richards were sent to the G League team last week. They've come back, but they haven't played yet. It's the Charlotte Hornets with these two blokes. We never know really what's going on. If you could ask a clairvoyant, will they ever play basketball again? And they might have a conniption, just trying to figure that one out. We expect them to be returning in week 7. I would have pinned Richards ahead of Williams 100%. But now I'm just thinking they roll them back out there at the same time in a minute share situation to ramp them both up, because it just seems like the most obvious thing. There was hints they were going to return at the end of week 6. They haven't. They've held them out. Maybe they just hold them out until LaMelo's out there for a couple of weeks and just like, oh, here's our team now at full strength with Miles being out. They do need these two guys in there. We can get some other value adds from the Charlotte Hornets that we'll touch on later, but they're the main ones. In Chicago, it's pretty smooth sailing over that when we're in Cleveland. Dean Wade is out for Sunday's game with the Celtics with the sprained ankle. Again, we did want Dean Wade. He generally tends to light up the Celtics, to be honest. Dallas, Luke has been out all week. He's going to miss Sunday. Clay Thompson is suffering plantar fasciitis over there as well. So continue to look up for the PJ Washington experience over there, and Kyrie Irving doing all that he can to help the Mavericks stay afloat. In Denver now, Aaron Gordon has been practicing with the team. There are rumors that he is looking to return this week. Return. There we go. There's my best 80s hip-hop impersonation. But look, he could be returning in week 7. If he's on your waiver wire, we pick him up, we stash him on IL. Maybe the person who dropped him didn't want to hang around for a player like Aaron Gordon. But he's an integral part of that team. We see what goes with that one, and we bring him in there. He's doubtful for the Sunday one, which means he's questionable moving into week 7. So we want to keep our eye on where he is in that league. We've got in Detroit, Cade Cunningham. He had a hip injury. He was out on Saturday, but he should be right to go coming into week 7 for all intents and purposes. Smooth sailing as well in Golden State and in the Houston Rockets, who are stacked deep. Good news for Indiana. Andrew Nembhard, he is questionable for their matchup. Naismith is still on the sidelines for there, but it's good to see Andrew Nembhard making a return. This will hit that value that we've had for TJ McConnell for the last little week. As well, it's been Boyd. Generally, they have a little bit of a minute share situation there. Now, the big news over in Los Angeles is that Norman Powell is now questionable on Sunday's game, which is good. He had that hammy injury. It's good to see him returning into the lineup after missing, I think it was 7 or 8 games now. It's been a couple of weeks, and as a Norman Powell owner and truther, this is good to see. For that one as well, Kevin Porter Jr. is out, so a mere copy. He'll probably be losing that value that he's had very, very soon. In Los Angeles as well, the Lakers. Now, Austin Reeves, that fall was the man's made of adamantium on the inside. That's all I can say. Now, he's questionable for Sunday versus the Jazz. We're going to see if he suits up and see what happens there. Stepping up into his steed is probably going to be Max Christie. And here's what I'm going to touch on a little bit later on the show. D'Angelo Russell is doubtful, and Jackson Hayes, he's going to be missing at least 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks. So this is where Christian Kolokolo will probably get a few more minutes there over in the team, because, you know what, Christian Wood's still out. Kolokolo is the only big man up to support AD, and AD is just back to being listed as day-to-day for every other game in between, as per usual. In Memphis, Zach Edey is still out for at least another week with his ankle injury, and in Miami, Jovic is going to be out on Sunday with his ankle injury as well. All things considered, going well in Milwaukee and Minnesota, whereas in New Orleans, Brandon Ingram and Jordan Hawkins will both miss another game on Sunday. Moving into the week 7, the Brandon Ingram situation is interesting. They haven't reached their extension talks. They haven't found a suitor for him yet. So let's just watch the shenanigans that happens with Brandon Ingram possibly missing games moving forward there. In New York, Precious Achiuwa is still out there, but we've had our other ads around there. New York has been playing very, very well, so we love what's happening in NYC. Alex Caruso is also out Sunday, looking to move into week 7, though. Maybe we pick him up for a stream for the Thunder. Gary Harris is out with a hamstring injury in Orlando, while in Philadelphia, where to start with their injured list? Just don't touch any of them. We've got Caleb Martin. He's missed a couple of issues. Andre Drummond, the backup to Joel Embiid, has been out. Jared McCain is the bright, shining lineup, but we've had Tyrese Maxey into the lineup and Paul George in the course of the past week, which has been good to see for Philly, because they have a lot of work to go for the rest of the season. In Phoenix, Brad Beal and Nurkic missed Saturday's game. They were both injured and out with their calf and ankle injuries. Beal, I just want him consistent for the year. He has looked really good in this lineup. So I think it might be just some owners out there. Could be a nice little buy low window on Brad Beal. Just saying, oh, he hasn't been available. We saw this last year, and then he came back and went on a tear. And I'm just getting this deja vu here that, like, is this what we're going to see from Brad Beal this year again? Really, really slow start, and then he hits it, and then he is running smooth. So this is a buy low window on me for all those anxious owners out there with injuries of Bradley Beal. I'd be very curious to see what happens there. Robert Williams is the Time Lord. Now, he's still in concussion protocols. DeAndre Ayton returned to the lineup and had a great game the other day. This is what we like to see from DeAndre Ayton. He was a buy low candidate, talking of them for a while there. This could be him putting a few things together. Let's see how he goes in the course of week 7, because it could be sell high on DeAndre Ayton by the end of week 7 if he plays incredibly well. Kevin Huerter is doubtful for Sunday's game for the Sacramento Kings with an ankle injury as well. There's just so many ankle injuries happening in the NBA. While in San Antonio, Jeremy Sohan, he is going to miss another game on Sunday with his fractured thumb. Toronto, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and Grady Dick are all out for Sunday's game against the Heat, and Emmanuel Quickley is still being reviewed in about the second week of December, so we will not see him back in week 7 whatsoever. We've seen in Utah, Jordan Clarkson has missed the last 3, while Kyle Flipowski has missed the last 4. He's been out for them, so let's continue to roll out their guys, even like Bryce Sensabaugh in their place. We know that Larry Markin missed a game, and Brycey stepped in there for the one. While in Washington, Kyle Kuzma, he was out on Saturday with a rib injury, so looking forward and moving into week 7, he should be all good and accounted for. That's pretty much that in the bag for the injury wrap-up around the league. Let's get into the weekly preview.
He's heating up.
Yeah, look, week 7, it's an interesting one. We are in the NBA Cup shenanigans, as I said. And look, if you are in a Yahoo League, again, you don't get extra ads. Now, the only way that ever happens, by the way, and someone asked me this the other day, like, do you ever get extra ads? I'm like, yeah, your commissioner basically has to go in and say, hey, guys, look, it's for 2 weeks. And this never happens, by the way. So you're really clutching at straws, because it's pretty much the same that happens at All-Star Weekend, where it's like 2 sets of weeks, if that makes sense, because the All-Star break, we have 2 weeks of action for 1 week of competitive fantasy play. This is the same as that Yahoo handles it for the Cup. We know that Cup games don't count at the tail end of it for those finals of that Las Vegas weekend. So it's run over and it's spaced over these 2 weeks. So again, let's be really conscious of the ads we need to make in week 7. Now, with that in mind, it's not a bad schedule week to start off with, or to, in a way. We've got the 11-game Tuesday and the 12-game Sunday. They're our 2 highest volume days. Our lowest volume days are Monday and Wednesday with 4 and 6 respectively. Thursday, not bad, 8. Friday and Saturday, 7 games each. There are 20 teams this week in the NBA who play 4 games, which means there is a lot. This is the weeks that we love in fantasy, especially if we've got a lot of 4 gamers, where the stats just look huge. You're like, oh, why can't I put this up every single week? You know, it's because 20 teams have 4 games in this. And when I talk week 7, I'm talking explicitly in the coming 7 days, not after that. So let's have a look at how it breaks down for this. The Hawks, the Celtics, the Hornets, the Bulls, the Cavs, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Pacers, the Lakers, and the Grizz. We've also got the Heat, the Bucks, the T-Wolves, the Pels, the Magic, the 76ers, Suns, Kings, Spurs, and Wizards, all on 4 games this week. And if you do the 20 teams, quick muff, taken away, that leaves 10 teams that are only playing 3 this week. They are the Nets, the Mavs, the Pistons, the Rockets, the Clips, the Knicks, the Thunder, Trailblazers, Raptors, and Jazz. So if we look at the 3 gamers, the Nets picks, Cam Thomas, he's injured anyway. Luka could be returning. That's a boy. Cade Cunningham. Guys like Fred VanVleet, Şengün, James Harden, Norm Powell, who's returning. That's great for him. In the Knicks, people who are buoying their value with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams owners, Anthony Simons, dare I say it, he's been struggling. Shaden Sharp, DeAndre Ayton owners, Scotty Barnes owners, Larry Markin owners. These are the guys who are going to be like, yep, I've got it sorted. And if you own a lot of these guys and your opponents are owning the 4 game a week guys, you're already behind the 8 ball a little bit. So this is where we want to be very conscious of our streams. And again, it's a good week to do it for the most part. The biggest hits here are the Tuesday 11 and the Sunday being the 12. So this is where when we're putting it together in the head, like, oh, geez, yeah, I've got a great team. I love my fantasy team. But yeah, your fantasy team is built around Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You might have, heavens forbid, you've got Nick Claxton in there, Karl Anthony Towns. You've had some really good picks up the top. These guys are getting 3 games. Your opponent, meanwhile, is rolling out guys like Donovan Mitchell against you, or who has a really good week, They've got like a Jokic and Donovan Mitchell to play, or Donovan Mitchell and Garland and Jarrett Allen. They've just got a whole bunch of Cavaliers, or Jokic is in there, or Anthony Davis and LeBron James teamed up in the same. And you got these guys, and already there's 8 games to your 6 for really good contributors across the fantasy board. So this is in this week where we've got to be really strategic about it. Because it's over 2 weeks, we don't freak out too much. We've got the tail end of it in Yahoo leagues. We don't want to jump the gun, as I said, and be preemptive, just going add, because then you burn them and your opponent can just be like, yeah, I'm just going to sit back. I see what you're doing. You don't know. And we don't want that. We don't want that. We want to manage this very, very well. So let's see where we can pick up a little bit of traction here. Now, heading Sunday in week 6 into Monday, we've got the Celtics, the Nets, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Pels. This is really, really good because the Lakers are one of those teams that actually play on those low volume days, and we can get some strategic ads here. So let's talk about these ones. Let's go to the quality games here. On the low volume Monday and Wednesday, you've got the Hawks, the Celtics, again, who are backing into this week like the Nets. So you got the Celtics, the Nets, the Lakers, the Heat, and the T-Wolves. These guys play on Monday and Wednesday. This is really important. Not only, see, look, you wouldn't add an Al Horford. He's questionable, doesn't play back-to-backs. So we put Big Al out. KP's not going to probably play both back-to-backs. This is where guys like Luke Cornett or even, someone else in the team has to step up here. I like Sam Hauser this week. I'll go over my ads there. Like we're looking at Xavier Tillman. We're looking at these other guys, especially in Boston, who we can get value for at the end of the Sunday in week 6, move them into the Monday. We don't have to do anything. If you look at it as well, we've got probably most of our spots filled up on the Tuesday for the 11, or we just drop our other worst player and we can bring one in. But with the low volume 4 and the low volume 6 on Monday to Wednesday, these guys, for quality of target, for quality games, I like. The Hawks, we've got some moves there. The Nets, we can bring some guys in there. The Heat or the T-Wolves. And this is really good for our Sunday. If we're struggling for that win, we could bring in like a, God forbid, Peyton Pritchard's available on your waiver wire, but a Sam Hauser. Get some extra points. Get some extra threes if we're chasing in there. The Lakers, we know that Max Christie could possibly get some extra minutes there. We know that, Cam Reddish, if we need some steals, possibly. He's been getting rolled out there as a defender, especially with D'Angelo Russell being doubtful for that Sunday game. If he's doubtful for that Sunday game, he's going to be questionable for Monday. This is where these fringy players really start to become a bit of an asset for us, and we can make the most use out of them. In the Heat, Hayward Highsmith, he's been starting for these guys. Terry Rozier has been dropped in leagues because he's been woeful. But yeah, we give Scary Terry a go because he is Scary Terry, and we know that he's a minute pop-off coming off the bench from everything else, and he's probably a really good 6-man for the Heat at the end of the day, probably a little bit better there than their stuff. And so that's where we can kind of then look over the course of the week and just see where we're going to move next. So let's go over that. Sunday into Monday, we've got the Celtics, the Nets, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Pels. They rolls into our Monday, Tuesday back-to-backs, which there are none. And that's the great asset about bringing these guys in for the last game of the Sunday. We don't have to worry then about resting them on the next day or whatever. We know we're going to get them on that back-to-back set. It's important that we then free up that Tuesday because there's no back-to-backs, because the Tuesday to Wednesday, it's a bit harder. Now, there's Pistons, Pacers, Clippers, Bucks, Magic, and 76ers. We're going to see what happens with Norm Powell, like we said. Amir Coffey gets dropped off at the car park, or maybe he doesn't play the back-to-back set because he's coming back from injury right now and they want to take it easy. And we hold on to Coffey and see which game that he plays. We've got guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. KCP has been playing well lately. Out of nowhere, boom, a 20-point game after being quite average, but being their on-ball defender go-to guy with Jalen Suggs and working well. But in fantasy, wasn't the asset we wanted him. A couple of really great games for KCP over the course of the last week. We then move into Wednesday and Thursday where there is no back-to-backs. And on Thursday and Friday, we're looking at the Bulls, the Warriors, the Kings, and the Spurs here. And there's some value to be added in here. We're looking at guys like Ayo Dosunmu, who you can see up on the board right there. We've got the Warriors. Now, look, that is by committee over there. We could be looking at anyone from Pods or, with the Kings, we've got guys like Jay Crowder, who's just popped up filling in for DeMar DeRozan. Does that continue? In the Spurs, I am loving guys like Champagne and Stephon Castle. They've been really, really solid and dependable for these guys as well over the year. Friday and Saturday, look, for me, it really is Sam Hauser. I don't think Peyton Pritchard is around in a lot of wires. And again, because it's the Celtics, we're looking at the Friday and the Saturday back-to-back here. And we know that we're not going to see we're not going to see KP and Al Horford either play in the same game, or if they play in the same game, they miss out. This is what opens up value for Luke Cornett. It opens up value for Xavier Tillman. But the smart play for the Celtics coaching-wise would probably be, look, we're going to play Cornett and Tillman off the bench on Friday and Saturday. Friday, we're going to start KP. Saturday, we'll start Al Horford. And that's probably the most likely scenario for the Celtics. Saturday, Sunday, the Hornets, the Cavs, the Nuggets, the Grizz, the Heat and the Pels, as well as the Suns and the Wizards. Now, again, the Sunday is the really big one. And even funnily enough with that, there are no back-to-backs then verging. We love to finish and start strong the week. There are no back-to-backs next Sunday moving into Monday. So we can literally make the most of the streams that we want to for that very final day of play, which is a 12-gamer. Now, if you don't have any roster spot, that's where you do drop off your worst guy and you do bring them on. Now, looking at the course of the week, look, let's be honest. The best days here to target are Monday and Wednesday. Now, these are the low-volume day games again. We can then fill in and we can work some magic separately on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But again, in Yahoo leagues, where this just counts as 4 ads or 5 ads over the course of 2 weeks, we've got to play it really safe and smart. Funnily enough, about as safe and smart is using IFS 15 right now on your standard squeeze locker code because it stacks. The codes stack with their whole Black Friday sale. Get on there. I'm struggling under the weather, but I've got my lemon honey tea. This is the worst thing I've ever had in here. Not the worst thing. It's probably the best thing. But my lemon honey tea out of my 4-in-1. I love it. Sweet and tart. Can't feel my face after I take a sip out of it. But the discount stack, you want to get onto it. The best campers in the world. You can have your coffee out of it. You can have your beers out of it. It's a cooler. You shove your stubby into it. Take it away on your road trips. The 4-in-1 is an elite Christmas present, and you get an extra 15% off the prices already, which are crazy for the Black Friday sales and Cyber Monday, just by using promo code IFS15. You want to make sure you jump on and log into that one. Now, like I said, the best ads for the week for me, I do want to target Monday and Wednesday. And so this is who I'm looking at. Going back over those low volume guys, these are the guys that we sit down, we can look at. Now, we can look at the Hawks guys, Celtics, Nets, Lakers, Heat, and T-Wolves guys. And the guys that I've pulled out for this one that I want to have a look at is Ricochet. He's getting a lot of burn now. He can hurt your field goal percentage, but I like him a lot and available on a lot of wires for the Atlanta Hawks. I like Hauser and Cornett. As I said, Tillman, probably to a lesser extent, but with their back-to-back sets this week on that Sunday into Monday set and also in the later sets in the week, we do get some extra burn out of Hauser and possibly Cornett if he's getting that rhythm there. Hachimura, Christie, and Reddish with questionable tags on Reeves and with doubtful on D'Angelo Russell. Christie looks to probably be the prime guard beneficiary there. Hachimura in the starting lineup, often found on the waiver wires, and Reddish could probably get some burn, especially if Reeves rests one of those 2 games as well. Now, we just want to watch the status of Dorian Finney-Smith in Brooklyn, but I do like him. If not, we could probably expect some Noah Clowney minutes there. Zaire Williams and Jalen Wilson. For Miami, I'm looking at Duncan Robinson, Hayward Highsmith, or Homie Hackers Jr., who had a really good last game for them in limited minutes, which is good to see him finding some form. And if they can stick around, he is a favorite in the Heat team, and we can see him make some movement. And I know Spolstra is asking for more from him as well. And it's just that second year. You either rise or you fall, and he hasn't played well. But the Homie Hackers Jr. could really come around, and this could be the start of some minutes for him this week, especially looking into that for that back-to-back for those Tuesday and so that Monday and Wednesday low volumes. And over in Minnesota, we've got McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They're probably our best bets. Why? I can make 1 or 2 ads, get 4 games out of it straight away. Those ones who are finishing off the week, I can finish Sunday, go Monday, and then Wednesday. I get 3 ads finishing at a win in the back of week 6, which is important, obviously. I then start week 7 strong. I can just set my roster on Tuesday with who I've got, because especially if I'm not dropping a guy, if I'm dropping the guy off that's not going to be playing on Tuesday as well, and an added benefit if you can an upgrade for the Monday and the Wednesday game. I get that Wednesday game out of these guys, and then I can just move on. Quite happily so. Let's go through those again. Let's focus on these guys to start the week, especially because we want to play it very just softly on Yahoo based on the amount of ads we had. We've got Ricochet, Hauser, and Cornett, Hachimura, Christie, and Reddish. Finney Smith. I'm going to add Clowney to that list with that ankle injury news from Brooklyn. Zaire Williams, Jalen Wilson, Duncan Robinson, Hayward Highsmith, Homie Hackers Jr., Jaden McDaniels, and Nikhil Alexander Walker for the Minnesota Timberwolves. That about does it. And in fact, it does. Make sure you like and subscribe to all things Insight NBA. Hit the buzzer down below. It's the buzzer. It's the thing, the band that says subscribe. It's got a bell. Do it. Get notifications. Get them onto your phone and get with all things Insight this NBA fantasy season. We'll catch you soon, guys. Take care. Be well. And it's December. So in advance, Merry Christmas early.